right, I'm going to call this meeting to order for the City of Iowa City special formal meeting on April 19th, 2022. It is 4 p.m. and I'm going to start with roll call, please.
Alter.
Here.
Burgess.
Here.
Harmson.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Teague.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Weiner.
Here.
All right, welcome everyone. And item number 2 is litigation. Could I get a motion to approve to executive session to discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent, where a disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the governmental body in that litigation? Could I get a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Taylor. Second, Weiner.
Roll call, please.
Burgess.
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Weiner.
Yes.
Alter.
Yes.
All right, we're going to go in there and we will be back. We just left an executive session, and now we're back in open session. Could I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So move, Meyer.
Second, Thomas.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. And to our work session for April 19th, 2022. And we are going to have the first item, which is Forest View relocation proposal update. And we're going to welcome Rachel Hilberg.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. Rachel Kilberg, Assistant City Manager. So over the past few work sessions, we've talked about plans to provide voluntary relocation assistance to the residents of the Forest View Mobile Home Park. I do just want to acknowledge that that plan is the result of probably close to a decade of work by Forest View residents, Center for Worker Justice, city staff, city council, past and present. So just wanted to quickly acknowledge everyone who's gotten us to this point. But on your council agenda tonight is the resolution that would approve that Forest View relocation plan. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time to walk you through that and provide an update of where we're at. So under that plan, each household that lived in Forest View at the time of the 2019 CZA would be eligible to receive $15,750 in relocation assistance. This was based on a calculation that considered the moving costs and the cost of a fair market rent for about 24 months. And a household is defined as one mobile home unit. The households who've already moved out will be eligible to just get that full amount in one check, and then those who currently live there will receive 50% up front to help with the moving costs, the security deposit, all of that, and then 50% after they have vacated no later than December 9th of 2021. I'm sorry, 2022. ARPA funds will be used to provide relocation payments to individuals who moved out after the onset of the pandemic in March of 2020. That is presumed eligible per the U.S. Treasury, and then we'll use local funds to pay those households who don't meet that presumed eligibility criteria, and as well as to compensate those households who moved out prior to March of 2020 but lived there at the time that the 2019 CZA was signed. As we discussed in recent work sessions, the majority of households will be eligible under ARPA, so their payments will not be taxable. They're considered qualified disaster payments. We do expect to have a handful of households who currently live there, and then as well as those who moved out prior to the pandemic who would be using local funds, in which case their payments would be taxable income, which was a compromise we had made to maintain federal compliance while also ensuring we could get relocation payments to all those households who lived there in June of 2019. So all of our required eligibility forms will be translated. We're using self-attestation to reduce the amount of barriers for households and streamline the process. And then the Center for Worker Justice has also agreed to serve as a resource for the households who are receiving these payments to assist them with finding new units, to making their way through the process and accessing other assistance programs as needed. We met with the CWJ last week, as well as the Tenants Association, to compile those residency records, get ready, and work out a process to get those eligible households ready to receive their check. And barring any kind of big unexpected hiccups, we expect that we'll be able to issue checks by the end of May. So we've planned two kind of eligibility clinics the first week of May with the Center for Worker Justice to complete those self-attestation forms. We scheduled those on weekend and evening hours to really, again, reduce those barriers. And we'll have the CWJ there present to help with interpretation and translation. Once we have all that required paperwork, we just need a couple of weeks here on the inside or internally to cut those checks, and then we expect those would be ready mid-May or towards the end of May, those first checks or the single check for the households that have already moved out. We're compiling some other information to issue with the checks that just help the residents know taxability information, notes from if they need to transfer school, how to stop or transfer the utility service. All that would be translated. We'd, of course, refer them to any local agencies for any other forms of household assistance they might be looking for. But all in all, kind of our focus now is just how quickly we can get those checks issued to the eligible households so they can start looking for new housing and move out by that December 9th date. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks. I do have one question. I know that CWJ is doing quite a bit of work in assisting. And I remember looking at Rose Oak, and we had an agreement with Shelter House to do some, to help with the resources. Are we considering at all to give CWJ some financial assistance for helping out the city?
Yeah, that's correct. I should have clarified. We've been in conversation with them about kind of what sort of additional services outside of their normal scope of work they'll be providing, and we're going to find a number to compensate for that as
Okay.
well.
And you won't need council involvement on that?
I believe the resolution provides all the authority that's needed.
Okay. All right, great. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further conversation by council on this?
No, I think we'll have it, I think we'll have a chance to talk in public this evening at the formal meeting, which is, so.
Great. All right, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is our senior center master plan. And I'm going to invite Latasha up to speak with us. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Well, we made it here. Very excited to be here to talk to you all about the master plan. It's been in the works since about December of 2019, so COVID kind of threw us through a little loop, but we are here. I just wanted to first, they don't know that I was going to do this, but thank the team that has been working. Everything we do here at the city is usually team as a collective of us working together. So been working with our facilities manager, Kumi Morris, and Ben Clark from engineering, as well as Redmond and Jeff, on how do we move forward with our facility master plan. So I wanted to make sure that I threw their names out in full support of the work that we've been doing. I'm very excited about the Senior Center master plan. It's going to be a community changing opportunity for us here at the city. It will include renovations that will draw more individuals, I believe, into the space. It'll allow us to be able to serve our population and populations to come in the future in a much more accessible way. So we're definitely looking forward to that, as well as allowing our building that's already currently rentable to be more rentable for others in the community, as well as people know a lot about the potential of the kitchen that we have there with some of our interior design. It will open up that opportunity for folks around the community as well to utilize that space. So the Senior Center Facility Master Plan is broken up into 3 phases. The first phase is our exterior phase, which is something that we just have to do as, you know, keepers of that building. We own that building. There are some definite things that are more emergent, as well as there's some things that just need to be done at that building for its upkeep, whether that's just preventing water from coming through the building, et cetera. So the beginning part of the CIP dollars that we have will be utilized to go to that first phase, which is to work on the exterior of the building. Things get a little bit different when we get into phase 2 and 3, because we're looking directly at the interior of the building. And as you all know, that this is just the pre-planning of the phase of this, and I know that OPN will go into that. So we're kind of visioning what the building can and will be. And so those dollars look a little different when we start looking at the interior of the building, but we'll get into that a little bit more as we get into the design phase about what works, what won't work. And again, we're dealing with a historic building, so we do have some things that we have to be cautious about, especially with our lobby and other areas of the building. So, but again, OPN will get into some of those pieces. I think it's really important that there are some limits to our budget that might not allow us to get to the level of our climate goals that we want to get to, just due to some budgetary as well as location issues that prevent us from becoming exactly net zero. But we'll be able to do some reductions with the plan that you all will be able to see and have seen already through some of the memo and presentation that's already been in the packet. So there'll be an overall budget will be able to allow us to do quite a bit of renovations, but we definitely will need to seek additional funds, whether that's through grants, whether that's through fundraising, et cetera. That we'll be working with Friends of the Center to do some of that work, but we still unfortunately will fall short of the number that we're currently looking at to do a full renovation. But what we're going to do is over the next 6 to 12 months is we're really going to dig in. We have full support from City Manager's office, obviously from you all, to do what we need to do to keep the center going and full of life and as vibrant as it is. We're going to take the next 6 to 12 months to really explore with the dollar amount that we're looking at. I think we're going to be about 6 to 8 million short of the full renovation that we really need to do. And so because of that, we need to look at where those dollars are going to go in the building, knowing that if we continue to maintain in our current building, there's some things that we won't be able to address just because of location, et cetera. But we are going to spend those months exploring. I'm going to work with a consultant, and we're really going to dig in and talk with our stakeholders and do focus groups, et cetera, about what does it look like to be here, or what does it look like to potentially be in a different location. And so the city is completely committed to us continue. Look, this is my job, so I believe that they're committed to continue to do everything that's necessary. We're going to keep the center going, but we're going to look at what options are, and it might be just a really awesome building that's here, but it might be somewhere else, but we don't know. But we're definitely not doing anything without our stakeholders, without our members, and without the community support. So I would like to introduce to you all here in a second Joshua Moe, Joshua Moe from OPN. When we first started this project, we were with a different architectural firm, but they were able to come in after some things we couldn't control with that original contract, and they came in and helped us with our assessments and really was able to finish up the master plan. So at this time, I'd like to bring to the podium Joshua Moe from OPN to give you all an overview of the Senior Center master plan.
Great. Welcome.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
I have visual aids. Is there anything I need to do in addition to wait for that to warm up? Okay. Well, I will
And
just give...
council can see it up here.
Oh, you can. Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, my name's Josh Moe with OPN Architects, and I had the privilege of working with Latasha on this assessment, and also there was a large group of people who were engaged also. So we had a lot of the staff, the Senior Center, Ben and Kumi were also mentioned, the City Manager's Office. We presented to the Senior Center Commission, as well as worked with Historic Preservation staff. And it wasn't just OPN. We also had a large team of consultants, too, who worked with us on this. So thanks to everybody who was involved in that. As Latasha said, another firm had started this work and was unable to finish it. So we came in and we collected the same consultant group and brought it to the finish line. And we had a series of meetings, and there is a report that you guys should all have access to. It's several hundred pages, so I'll do my best to synthesize that for you guys today. We are in the very, very, very beginning of a design process. So we'll show you some ideas of what floor plans could look like. Those were used to generate cost estimates. But there is a lot of work to do, and bringing, I think, the project and the budget into alignment is one of those big steps that needs to happen, as well as some of the work that Latasha is going to engage. But the first project that we'll be starting is the envelope work, and that'll be going through a full design process, and that I think will illuminate how much money is left in the budget after they start to tear into an old building. The building itself is a fascinating building. If you guys remember being there for the last several council meetings, it was actually originally constructed in 1904. There was a major addition added in 1931 when the post office moved to the federal building across from the courthouse. That's when the city and the Senior Center did a major renovation of that building, and that was back in 1981. It's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It's a contributing building in downtown historic, Iowa City's downtown historic district. But that's the last major building investment, was 1981. There's been some important renovation work, some important work to make it safer, to make it more accessible, but no, let's shut down the whole building and completely reinvest for 40 years now. Just a little fun picture. That's the front of the building as it was in 1904, facing Washington Street. Then in 1931, they flipped the building 90 degrees and moved it to Lynn Street. You can see the sooty old building there, and they just sort of built around it. Kind of makes you scared about what was in the air between 1904 and 1931. And for the most part, that's what the building looks like today, though. You can see in this picture some key things that we'll talk about. There is the parking garage, and there's a sky bridge that connects to the third floor. That's one of the main entrances to the building. This building is a beautiful Beaux-Arts building with a very clear architectural entry. I mean, you just look at the building and you know where the front door is. Unfortunately, that's up a bunch of steps, so it's not an accessible entrance. And then if you look on the other side of the building on Washington Street is where that accessible entrance is. So sort of setting you up for one of the big challenges of the building is entry and understanding where the front door is and how do you find your place once you've arrived in the building. There's also a really interesting artifact we'll talk about in a second. You can almost see it right above the 19 in 1981, and that's actually a piece of the building that was carved away for the Skywalk that's interpreting how the building is built, which leads us to some interesting challenges for fixing the envelope of the building. In meeting with the senior center staff, we learned a lot about what their needs were. Accessibility is key to this group. The users of this group a lot of them have mobility issues. There's currently one elevator that's about as much space as you want to devote in that size of the building, and so the current plan shows just renovating that elevator, but only one elevator that's heavily used. It's also the city's sustainability goals for both energy reduction, but potentially getting to carbon neutral building was something we pushed really hard at. It is absolutely a cost driver for the project, but we can do it. But it's something that was important to the staff and important to us. And other things that I wanted to underline too was good, just being able to navigate the building is making it more user friendly, and also support the mission of the senior center. This building is, by the way, a beautiful historic building. It needs some attention, but it has a lot of life left in it. And it also is a really important building to the downtown Iowa City. So we always looked at this too with a lens of it ought to look like that building when we're done with it. And it should be vibrant and exciting and modern on the inside, but also retain all the historic integrity that's there. In addition to the things we learned from Latasha and her team, just by examining the building, we learned that the envelope has some pretty serious challenges to it. And we'll show some pictures later of those issues. They can be resolved, but they need to be addressed, and they are becoming safety concerns. The other thing I said earlier with the three-man entrances is just a reality of this building, and the elevator, and then the funding. So these pictures here, as you imagine, old limestone building. At one point, all the joints were sealed up, and over time, those joints open up. They'll all need to be put back together again. That's just normal building maintenance. The more challenging problem would be the very top of the building. The baluster across the top is leaning a little bit. It's really just a masonry wall. It's not tied back to anything. And it's noticeably moved. So it needs to be deconstructed and rebuilt. And that can be done. We do that all the time. But at a certain point, it leans so far, it's dangerous. We don't believe it's there yet, but we also don't know if it's done moving, so we want to fix that. There's some water damage in the building. We believe that's probably where water is entering the building, is at that joint between the roof and that top part of the wall, and then migrates through the building. So again, it makes sense to fix the outside before you spend any money on interiors. The last thing to point out is there's a really deep projecting portion of the building where there's a flat limestone surface. And this is that thing that's sort of, I don't know if anybody really notices it on the side of the building. There's a piece of the building that was removed for the skywalk. And that big, long, horizontal piece of limestone is actually kind of like a teeter-totter. And it's held in place by a metal rod on the inside of the building. And so we are recommending that we go look at those metal rods to make sure that that thing, the teeter-totter tension component, stays in place. Again, that's going to cause damage to the interior, so it just makes sense to do all this outside stuff first. So as we go through the prioritized list of things, the envelope is first. And then the senior center staff was very clear that the kitchen was a high priority for them, for a community need, for rental space, for education space. The kitchen is not functional in its current state, but could be both a revenue generator for them, but also can really support their mission. And this is the part of the building where we actually did work with the kitchen consultant and get a fairly specific design so we could get a good cost estimate for that. We understood this would be towards the front end of the project. The next initiatives are just bubble diagrams, because we know there's a lot of work to do on getting budget and alignment, and then also just understanding where this building needs to be or where this program needs to be. So these aren't in any particular prioritized order. This is just top of the building working down. We wanted to bring the function of the building in alignment with the 4 pillars of the senior center. So the upstairs is lifelong learning. They currently have classroom space up there. There's some acoustical challenges because you can hear everything happening in the next room. So re-envisioning those classroom spaces to be more functional, and to just freshen up the spaces and bring them the technology that we all expect and need for Zoom meetings and sort of hybrid in-person and digital things. Also acknowledging that this is a main entry of the building and having some sort of entry at that skywalk. Right now you enter and you just sort of arrive at somebody's office. There probably needs to be a more appropriate entry. The mezzanine floor, which was originally, not maybe everyone has been there, was where the postmaster resided, where he could sort of look down over the mail sorting floor, which is where you guys had your council meetings. That space we're recommending is for administrative functions. For the safety and wellness of the staff, it makes sense to put all of them together in an office suite where if they needed to, they could be separate from the public. They could potentially collaborate even more effectively. Right now, there's some sort of public functions in their office suite, so this is an opportunity to maybe make a nice distinction for that zone. The main hall, the kitchen would be the major project, but then that space also needs some minor upgrades. Honestly, there's some beautiful historic terrazzo floors we'd recommend keeping. There's beautiful woodwork we recommend keeping. There's maybe some lighting updates, but really this is a sort of refinishing of existing finishes. And then finally, the lowest level is currently the grade level or ground level, and this is one of the 3 plans that we showed to historic preservation staff. We really like the idea of inventing the front door to make it accessible, but keeping those doors there and having a way to arrive in the building where you look right at the elevator, you see the stairs. It's a more clear vertical circulation diagram, so we don't need a bunch of signs. People just intuitively know when they walk in where that is. This would be the wellness floor, so effectively gym space, weightlifting and cardio spaces. This is probably a much more aggressive, clean it all out, start over. There's not a lot of historic fabric down there. And as a gym space, it has a sort of different character and need anyway. We did show other options for this, and I think that if this project progresses forward, there's opportunities for different ways to enter the building. If we don't want to disrupt the front, we're showing one option where maybe there's an after-hours meeting room where you could close the whole building off but only have one area. But all this would happen when we have a better sense of what the budget is and what the needs are. But there's options, and we have enough here to identify costs. Energy and carbon reduction is a big driver for this project, and we were recommending complete replacement of heating and cooling systems to arrive at that, to move from the current system that's more like your house where it's hot and cold air moving through ducts to decoupling fresh air and heating and cooling. And that's one of the strategies to get us down to a net zero building. There's not a good way to do on-site renewable energy production, but it's appropriate and actually best for this particular situation to just buy green energy. or offset it somewhere else. But that's how you would arrive at that. The roof is full of stuff. The parking garage, we briefly looked at that. It seems complicated and expensive you could arrive at the same place and have a net zero building. So it's possible, but it's a cost driver. If we can do a major renovation of the project, it's the opportunity to do that now, though, is to change those systems out because they're all above a ceiling. We put in all new lights and everything. That's the time to do it. With a smaller budget and a smaller project, there could still be a meaningful renovation to the building, but you would, I think, miss an opportunity to completely re-envision the heating and cooling systems which are driving the energy use for the building. This little chart here is energy use intensity. The building is currently maybe a little higher than we'd like it to be. The middle column is 45% reduction, which could be done with some minimal upgrades and changes, and the far right column, no carbon, is achievable for this building, but at I guess, a cost. And those costs, I think you guys have seen in the packet, we've broken it into 3 pieces. The exterior envelope probably has the most unknowns in it because it's an old building. We feel this is an appropriate amount. There's contingency built into this number, but it's necessary for now. And that includes stone restoration as well as some window work and then some small roof repairs where we're rebuilding that exterior parapet I described, the leaning part of the building. The kitchen project, commercial kitchens are very expensive. House kitchens are very expensive. And so that's project number 2. And then you'll see the last parts of the project we're currently saying $9 million, and that's in today dollars. So the report that we provided did show escalation over 5 years and 10 years, but we threw larger than normal numbers at it, but we're all in a moment where guessing how much things are going to cost in 10 years is tricky. So I want to just say that out loud, and it's written in the report also. We've projected 5 and 10-year costs, but we don't know what that is. And so, as Latasha said, the current design that we have is about $7 million over the allocated CIP funding in today dollars. Do you guys have any questions?
I mean, I'm actually really glad that you addressed the question of not knowing or not being able to know the costs going forward, because that was actually something that I was going to ask. Like, we've seen construction costs and material costs just go sky high, and other things that people have estimated end up being, when we get the estimate, when we take it out to bid and get the estimates in, it's much higher than because, I mean, who knows right now? And so I think we really need to be honest about that we just don't know.
Can you talk a little bit about the kitchen renovation and what all that number includes as far as that kind of first floor changes that would be made concurrent with that, knowing that that's at the beginning?
Sure. So the kitchen is fortunate in that it's on its own air handling unit, so it'd be completely new mechanical systems for that space. There is every surface would be removed in this current plan. All the flooring, finished material, the ceilings, the walls. And this is a complete reconfiguration of the space, all new architectural surfaces, and all equipment. It's kind of why we took this plan, which actually shows equipment a little bit further than the other stuff, because we wanted to get equipment costs in there. But it's set up with a dry storage room, an area with laundry, because they will teach laundry to people. If you've lost a spouse who's been doing your laundry your entire life, they teach that. They can teach cooking for big classes, cooking for one. They can also use it just as a functional commercial kitchen, too. The large walk-in cooler currently occupies a ton of space in there, and it's wildly underutilized. So we can give some of that space back to make this into more of a learning kitchen with 12, maybe 15 people in person, and we would amenitize it with technologies that would allow you to broadcast. But that's the whole project cost.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any expansion of the kitchen or just working within its current confines?
We are keeping the kitchen in its same footprint because we did not want to disrupt the big two-story ballroom space. So we eliminate one of the big overhead doors. It's currently where there's a dishwash area that you may or may not think of as part of the kitchen. There's also a dishwashing situation here in the bottom right corner, but it would be much more open and feel like more of the kitchen, I think. There is a small office, too, that we're taking away, but it's mostly the same footprint.
You had mentioned that there was some leakage coming from the roof, and that you thought that might be the balustrade, but is there any chance that we could be looking in the exterior that there might be some other issues up there? What is that currently? What system is up there on that flat roof? And
So the roof was replaced in, is it 2008? Yeah, so the roof appears to be in reasonably good condition, the flat white part. It's where that meets the stone part is where we're concerned. And also the stone joints, there's where two pieces of limestone meet one another, appear to be open in a lot of places. They just need to be sealed up. So there's a lot of potential places where the water could be coming in, and it's always tough to sort of find that one spot. So this project would do the whole thing. So
is it currently a rubber roof up there, or what? It's
I believe it's a PVC, so a plastic material, but thermoset. And most of that, by the way, we're assuming it can be reused. It can be, the new part could be patched into it, because we believe that it still has life into it, and we don't want to throw anything away that still has life in it. So
thank you.
The memo talks about, as part of this later phases, a high-level discussion as to whether it is prudent to consider alternative locations that may better serve the targeted population. And this has already been mentioned, but this part of it kind of concerns me and is curious to me as to what are we really talking about there in terms of alternative locations? Another location in the downtown, or
we didn't. It wasn't my job to study other locations. I'm pretty comfortable talking about the program that was identified to us and how it would work in this space. But there were some challenges, like the single elevator and the accessibility and the three entrances, that are not resolvable. And so we left it at that. This is an amazing senior center. It can continue to be an amazing senior center here, but I think everyone's just doing their due diligence. If you're going to spend that much money, is it the perfect building for it? Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're the one who should answer that. So.
I think also we had some commissioners and other folks saying, this is a lot of money. This is beyond the money that we have for CIP. Have we thought about looking at other locations? So we're just going to take a moment and look at it, but we're completely committed to being at our current location because it's historic for us to be there. So it's just like, okay, what else could we, and we have some other opportunities, and we would have a lot to discuss, and we know there are people that are firm about being in that location, but it's a due diligence thing, right? Making sure that we're just following up, knowing that it's such a large amount of money that if there's some other options that we go ahead and look at. And then if, folks are saying no and they're willing to support us doing that, then of course.
I understand that it's you have to ask the question.
Absolutely.
It's a big question.
It is a big question, trust me.
You have ecumenical towers next door and,
Absolutely.
A number of things, I'm sure,
Absolutely.
in terms of how one accesses
And that was some of the
bus-wise and
issue.
so forth, what the bus routes are. It's a complicated question.
It's a very complicated question, and because some of the issues that are not going to be able to be addressed, even with this large renovation, is parking. We can't get a bus route closer to the door because of how the streets are fixed. So, some of our commissioners and other folks were like, well, let's at least do our due diligence and look and see if there's another option. But we're definitely completely committed to being in our downtown location.
Thank you, Latasha, for your compassion and your caring for this. Truly is a beautiful piece of Iowa City history, beautiful building, and I appreciate the thought of finding somewhere else, but it just seems like, and with your planning, that this level would be for this level for that. I mean, you've really thought that out, and I think it would be hard to find something comparable that you could separate out those activities. And you'd mentioned it being a benefit to the community, and it really does serve for the health and welfare of people, and even young ones. I just noticed, and I think Laura will appreciate this, that the Family Folk Machine is having a concert again very soon, and that includes young people, and it's just it's a great thing. And whether you have the concert at the Englert or if you have a smaller one in that, I think you called it the ballroom space, it really tends well for that, and people enjoy that. So thank you to you and the commission and all the folks that have been working on this.
This might be prognosticating in ways that are not possible to do, but how confident do you feel you can get $6 to $8 million in fundraising? I'm sorry, I know that's a bonus round.
We are going to do a study, Friends of the Center, which is our arm of our fundraising for the center, is going to do a study here coming up in our next fiscal year to look at a feasibility study. We're not sure. $6 to $8 million is a lot of money. I'm not saying I'm that confident that we can get to that number. What I hope is that after we do this feasibility study, after we talk to our stakeholders and members, et cetera, if we decide to stay in this space, that we will be able to refine our design study on the inside. And there are some things we're just going to have to give up.
That was my follow-up question, is sort of like, when you're planning a budget, like here's my Cadillac, here's my Toyota, and here's my Pinto, right? Mm-hmm. So I was wondering if that had started, if those conversations had kind of,
the plan
we don't want to go to Pinto, but
Or the plan before you is our platinum plan. I just want to be really clear about that, but I'm not opposed to silver. I can deal. Kind of look similar.
A gold, right? Platinum gold.
Right. I think we put out, this is what would make us we're already incredible. This will just take us over the top, right? And being able to do these things, especially our wellness area, because this really is one of our biggest parts that draws people in, because $40 a year versus some of the other locations, you just can't beat it, especially the equipment is incredible. So it would allow us, really a lot of that work is going to go in that lower level. But we wanted to invest there. We wanted to envision what it would be like to truly serve the people that we want to serve in that space. And so, like I said, that's our platinum plan. But as we said, we're in the visioning, and I don't know about dreaming small. So we're dreaming big, and we realize that there's some refinement that can help bring that cost down. Again, back to Councilmember Weiner saying that, we don't know the cost. We don't know what it looks like. It looked like one number when we first started this plan, and now it's looking like a different number. So we have our fingers crossed about the platinum plan, but we are okay. We can make do. Let me be honest. We can make do with what we have, but we know we deserve better. We know that our population deserves better, and we're appreciative of the CIP dollars that have been allotted, because we haven't had a major renovation in 40 years. So we are grateful for every dollar raised, every grant that will come, in the current dollars that we have.
I just like what you said, that it's well-deserved as well, so.
I'm a strong believer in, when you create a vision and you explain very clearly where the money is going, what the improvements will be, the fact that our major renovation hasn't taken place in over 40 years, that often the money will appear.
I'm with you. I'm going to stand in that energy for this project. And I also, you hope for the best and you plan for the worst. And so I know people love this center.
It's good to have contingencies.
Yes, we have contingencies.
What's essential and what are betterments that, if the money's there, we could tap into them. But I'm always impressed with how, when you think in a visionary way, the money will show up.
Well, as long as we have you all support, and just know that CIP can always be expanded, so we are open to anything that you all are able to support us in our mission to improve services to seniors.
I think the community support, too, it's been shown.
Absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
The fundraising's been excellent for the Engler, the film scene, the public library. It's been there. Our community comes out when we need it.
Yes.
And
And
so
we have some time. We have a little bit, not a lot of time, but
So
we
I'm
have
very
a
hopeful.
little bit of time to
for that.
work towards this goal. And so our hope is to, once we have this kind of finalized, to start working on some of that to see if we can move the dollars around a little bit to be able to do the best work we can and get things moved around in the building.
You mentioned grants as well, Natasha, so that are there federal grants, state grants, or
We think there's all different types of grants. We've been talking with our historic preservation folks about some grants around there, other grants that might be out there. There may be even somewhere in the ARPA dollars, there might be some opportunities there. Obviously fundraising, and I want you all to be prepared to come to any galas and speak to other people for us that will help us to get to where we need to be able to do the renovations that we need to.
I think also the ADA has come up quite often. I think there are probably some things with compliance for that where you could get hopefully some funding for those items too.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to be really clear that we are ADA. It's about
Correct.
accessibility,
Right.
right? It's about, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different dream. And so we want to be able to have tables that can rise up and down when we're in that kitchen, so that if you're in a wheelchair or if you're able to stand or if you prefer to stand, that you have those options when you take that class. And so those things cost additional money rather than just a table we're rolling in there. So we want to be as accessible as possible because we want to be able to serve whoever comes to the door.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yes. You're beginning with the end in mind. Dreaming big.
Always.
Love it, love it, love it. Any other items?
Yeah, just to help frame that conversation up, in a couple of months, you'll probably have the rec facilities master plan, and I think one of the things we'll be looking at are what are the opportunities that come together with both of those. You can expect that you'll see significant capital costs identified in that plan when you look at our existing rec centers, potential future rec centers, pools, and things like that. So I think we've got a really good plan here, dress the exterior in the way that it needs to be addressed this next year. And then, we'll be able to consider kind of everything together going forward. But the $3.5 million that we have in the CIP for the interior work's a great start, and I think we can stretch that a long way and improve that facility quite a bit. Hopefully there's some additional funding. $6 to $8 million in fundraising, probably not realistic in this case, but there'll definitely be some value added fundraising that we can pursue to continue to make the center the attraction that it is.
Great. All right, we will move on to clarification of agenda items. Hearing nothing, we're going to go to info packet April 7th.
I'll just highlight IP2, which was a letter from MediaCom regarding their affordable connectivity program, which provides a discount for internet service, and that folks it sounds like there's relatively broad eligibility for that program, and that folks can register on the MediaCom website or at fcc.gov. I was going to ask staff if you happen to know, Jeff, if it sounds like this is a federal program. Are other ISPs participating the same way?
Yes, I think no matter who your service provider is, you can go to the FCC site, and many of them, including IMON, are participants.
Great. So, affordable connectivity program. Just want to promote that.
Well, yeah, so will we also be pushing it out and promoting it, or is that for the providers to do?
We typically allow the providers to do that, but if council wishes, we can try to get a sense of who's participating in our area and send that out.
think it's something that, I mean, I don't know if we do it or someone else does it. I think it would be useful to have it consolidated. I also think it would be useful to have it in at least a couple of languages if something like that is possible, because there are plenty of people who may need the services for whom English may not be completely accessible.
Yeah, I think getting our communication team involved just to kind of do some messages on Facebook and other social media sites would be great.
Okay.
Any other items from April 7th?
Probably worth highlighting the call for volunteers for the climate action event this coming Earth Day. Sounds like a really cool program where volunteers walk through a neighborhood in Iowa City, go door to door with packages to help homes be more energy efficient, something that the city's done before. And last I knew, anyway, they're still looking for volunteers to help out. 2 different shifts, 9 a.m. to noon and 3 to 5 on Saturday, April 23rd, this coming Saturday.
All right, info packet, April 14th.
With respect to IP4, which is pending city council work session topics, there's somewhere in our materials, there was discussion of the Indigenous Peoples and Indigenous Peoples Day coming up. I would really, if we could get consensus, I would love to push forward at least some version of land acknowledgement by the time we hit Indigenous Peoples Day. I think that would be, it doesn't have to be what others are using. I sent the city manager what I thought was a really helpful video that someone forwarded me that the university group has done, that it sort of explains different levels and what language you could use and that there are a whole variety of ways to approach it.
I do know it's a pending work session, so if council wants to have that discussion, we can certainly try to figure it out before then.
We have plenty of time. I wanted to raise it now because I thought it would be really good if that could all come to dovetail in October this year.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
Do you want to pick a date to schedule that, or you want staff to just work with the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and figure out what that needs to be? Okay.
Any other items from April 14th? All right, we're going to bring up USG. So the University of Iowa Student Government, welcome.
Hello, Council. How are y'all today?
Awesome and amazing.
Good to hear. So USG is going to have a new administration starting Saturday, April 30th. The inauguration is going to be at the Old Capitol Mall starting at 1:30. All of you are welcome to come. U Iowa is also now a bee certified campus, reinforcing Iowa's commitment to protecting pollinators. Pretty cool sustainability action. Speaking of, USG passed a anti-carbon capture bill that the GR committee presented to Senate a couple weeks ago. We will be sending this legislation to the Iowa Utilities Board, who votes on the carbon capture pipeline that will be going through Iowa, known as the Navigator CO2 pipeline. USG changed our bylaws wording of Latinx to Latine constituency senator for the constituency senator seat. The U Iowa campaign to organize graduate student COGS petition to divest the Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association from its billions of dollars from oil, fracking, gas, and coal that it receives, or funds. moving past, oh my gosh, sorry, we have a lot of sustainability announcements today. The last one relates to UIWA receiving $21 million as a member of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's $360 million consortium to improve the nation's ability to predict water-related hazards and effectively manage water resources. Finally, I will be transitioning to the city liaison position May 3rd, and May 3rd will be Anna's last day. That will also be the day that we get our new deputy city liaison. So we're going to have like a big, a little, and another big. So that'll be pretty fun. That's all. Thank you.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Oh, of course.
Do you know where the rental checklist stands currently in the State House?
Oh, I actually don't know, but I can follow up with you after this meeting. Awesome.
All right, thank you. Council updates on assigned boards, commissions, and committees. None?
Oh, I should mention, I'm sorry. CPRB has its forum tomorrow evening, the 20th, at, I believe, starting at 6 p.m., right, Kelly? Which is on Zoom, and you can register online to attend that.
Okay. We did have our joint entities meeting yesterday, and I thought that was a pretty good meeting. We had Matt Dagner, the school superintendent, kind of give some updates about their facilities plan. It was unfortunate that we didn't hear from GuideLink, but they plan to be at our next meeting, which would be in June, correct? Yes. And that meeting will be hosted by the city of Coralville. All right. Any other updates? Hearing none, we're going to be adjourned until 6 p.m. It is 6 p.m., and I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the City of Iowa City formal meeting for April 19th, 2022. I'm going to start with roll call, please.
Alter.
Here.
Burgess.
Here.
Harmson.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Teague.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Weiner.
Here.
All right. Welcome to everyone that is present back in our City Hall. It's been since March of 2020 since we've been here, so welcome back to your City Hall. Happy to see you here. And for those that are online, let's see. Welcome. All right. The item number 2 is proclamations. 2A is Arbor Day. And I'm going to switch to 2B, and I'm going to have our city clerk bring me Arbor Day, please. 2B is Housing Trust Fund Week. Whereas the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County was founded in 2004, and whereas for 18 years, the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County has been creating and preserving housing that is affordable, and whereas the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County has committed more than $12 million for housing that is affordable, and whereas more than 1,000 units of housing that is affordable has been created and preserved for residents of Johnson County by the Housing Trust Fund. And whereas the City of Iowa City has provided a substantial amount of the funding for the work accomplished by the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County, and whereas the Housing Trust Fund's Affordable Housing Highlights program will take place on Friday, April 22nd at noon via Zoom and Facebook Live, hosted by the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition, and will be recorded for viewing on the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County's Facebook page. Now, therefore, I, Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, do hereby proclaim April 22nd to April 28th, 2022, to be Housing Trust Fund Week in Iowa City, and encourage residents to learn more about the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County and their mission to promote and support housing that is affordable. And here to accept this proclamation is the Executive Director of the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County, Alan McCabe.
All right. There we go. Good evening. On behalf of the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County, thank you for the proclamation for Housing Trust Fund Week 2022. Oops, why don't I have a full screen? That's interesting. Okay. Well, the Housing Trust Fund, as you mentioned, was founded 18 years ago, and our mission is to promote and support housing that is affordable in Johnson County. We apply for and secure funding from a variety of sources. We then go about recruiting applications to preserve and create affordable housing. We offer training programs on how to apply and how to comply with the income qualification requirements necessary to receive the funding from the trust fund. We have a dedicated group of volunteers who evaluate applications for funding and make recommendations to the Board of Directors. The Trust Fund is fortunate to have your Assistant City Manager and my Assistant City Manager as a resident of Iowa City, Rachel Kilberg, serving on the board. The Trust Fund then extends offers to applicants in the forms of grants and loans to create and preserve housing that is affordable for people with low incomes. This past year, the Trust Fund awarded $2.15 million. That investment is expected to leverage an additional almost $17 million for housing that is affordable within Iowa City. $1 invested by the trust fund yields a return of $8. And we find that this is a typical return on investment year over year. This next slide illustrates the 8 awards extended this past year. As it turned out, all projects were within the city of Iowa City. Pandemic aside, 8 awards ties for the most awards in a single year back in 2016. 72 households and 70 people per night in shelter will benefit from the funding awarded this past year. In the current fiscal year, we have awarded $1.47 million to date, with 3/4 of the year behind us, which will assist 64 households plus 70 people in the DVIP shelter each night for the next 40 years. We anticipate awarding a total of $2 million again this year to create and preserve housing that is affordable before June 30th, which is the end of our fiscal year. Your support makes this possible and makes it possible for the Housing Trust Fund to operate its revolving loan fund to support housing for people with low incomes. We hope that people interested in the critical need for affordable housing will go to the Trust Fund's webpage and Facebook page to learn more about our work. And we invite everyone to attend the Affordable Housing Highlights program on Friday, April 22nd at noon, hosted by the Affordable Housing Coalition on Zoom and Facebook Live. Thank you for your dedication to affordable housing and for the proclamation for Housing Trust Fund Week 2022.
Thank you so much. Item 2A is Arbor Day. Whereas the coming of spring produces a renewal of interest in tree planting for beauty, shade, conservation, and many other purposes beneficial to all people. And whereas the observation of Arbor Day has long been characterized by the planting and preservation of trees, and whereas trees in Iowa City beautify our community, increase property values, reduce pollution, lower energy costs, and enhance the economic vitality of business areas. And whereas because trees absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen, having a diverse and healthy tree population constitutes a major part of Iowa City's effort to mitigate against climate change. And whereas trees can produce natural air conditioning, the evaporation from a single tree can produce the cooling effect of 10 room-size air conditioners operating 20 hours a day. And whereas evergreen trees can be used to reduce wind speed and thus loss of heat from our homes in the winter by as much as 10 to 15%. Now, therefore, I, Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, do hereby proclaim April 29, 2022 to be Arbor Day in Iowa City, and I hereby urge all citizens to participate in tree planting and preservation projects throughout the year. And to receive this is going to be our Parks and Recreation Director, Julie Seidel Johnson.
Mayor, Julie was not able to attend tonight after all, so if you want to hang on to that proclamation, I'll get it to her tomorrow.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Let's give our rec department a hand. All right. Moving on to items number 3 through 8, which is our consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Minor.
Second, Taylor.
Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If you are online, please raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you. In person, please step to the podium. Seeing no one, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weiner?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We are on to item number 9, which is our community comment. And this is an opportunity for anyone to talk about an item that is not on our agenda. If you would like to address an item that is not on our agenda, I'm going to have you come to the podium, and I will call and have you sign in at the podium. If you're online, I'll have you raise your hand. Yep. And yes, so we'll start here in-house and welcome.
Good evening. My name is Joe Riley. I work for the Iowa City Downtown District as the nighttime mayor. Thank you, Mayor Teague and council, for taking public comment. I've come here on behalf of the Iowa City Downtown District in our advocacy role for our businesses. I wanted to draw attention to 2 items for your consideration. First, a letter the Iowa City Downtown District submitted to council on March 10th. The creation of this letter came from a conversation that several council members had with our executive director, Nancy Bird, asking for ways that the city of Iowa City could support downtown businesses as they get back to operations in their businesses. The Iowa City Downtown District did their outreach for business input. As these operators continue to deal with supply, overhead, and labor costs rising, we identified an area of relief that could be pressed on. This relief would be a reduction of fees for sidewalk cafes and patios in the public right-of-way. We are definitely grateful for the use of the public right-of-way. It absolutely enhances our streetscapes and vibrancy in downtown. I think in my rough count, we have over 30 plus permitted in the public right-of-way just in the Iowa City Downtown District alone. We would also like to note that while it contributes to the overall livability in downtown, it does make for a competitive business climate. While we may see those patios and cafes active with patrons during the warmer months, it doesn't necessarily mean there's the same amount of activity inside the business. Patrons who are seeking patio or cafe space to dine on may skip over businesses that don't have these spaces. The second item I wanted to draw to your attention is the Newman Munson case study commissioned by the Iowa City Downtown District, which was submitted to council last summer. This study sampled cafe and patio fees from comparable communities around the United States. It found our fees in Iowa City were on the higher end. The Iowa City Downtown District is asking council to take up this matter as an agenda item and make the determination on the request that was made. Now, while it is convenient for me to be here and coalesce the voices of our business community, I thought it would be just as impactful to invite a few of them here to speak and to hear from them yourself. Please note that Wendy Zimmerman of Get Fresh Cafe was not able to attend, and her comments were submitted to the council's email. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go online. Noah, welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Perfect. Okay, so first I'm just gonna say, Jeff, stop ignoring my emails. You have yet to respond to my email, yet you could send me threatening emails because I criticize your city staff, yet you can't seem to find the time to answer my emails about what the city's doing about housing for the houseless folks who currently do not have shelter. Because Shelter House is not accepting people. They're turning people away due to capacity, and yet, Jeff, you told newspaper reporters that Shelter House does not do that, and the city has yet to respond to me or anyone else about what they're going to be doing to provide emergency housing for people. So it's pretty audacious of you, Bruce, to give a proclamation about claiming that y'all care about housing people and affordable housing, whatever that means, yet you can't do the very basic things of providing emergency housing to people who need housing right now, who are currently being denied and having the cops called at them if they show up at Shelter House, and being turned away and by cops, by Shelter House, because they need housing. And the city has chosen to completely ignore people who point this out just because we may not be the nicest when we say it, because we have the audacity to see the humanity and emotionally respond to the fact that y'all good liberals will say you care about housing, yet when people are being forced to live on the streets, you refuse to give them housing, and instead you allow Shelter House to call the cops on them and remove them from their premises and not provide housing to people and force people to live on the street. I mean, you all should really be ashamed of yourselves that you can't manage this emergency shelter. City of Iowa City, open the emergency shelter. Open the emergency shelter. Open the emergency shelter. Open a gosh fucking damn emergency shelter today, tomorrow. Put this on your meeting agenda to give people shelter. It's not that hard of an idea. It's not that radical of an idea to give people housing who need it. Thanks.
Thank you. And I just wanted to get a sense of how many people here want to speak during public comment. Okay. All right. Welcome. And there is a sign-in at the podium. And so I'll ask everyone to sign in and give your name and the city you're with. And there are also stickers that you can fill out and drop in the basket if you want to sign up beforehand.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Iowa City City Council. Thank you for hearing a few local business owners about our obligations for sidewalk patio permits and cafes and obligations. My name is Brandon Ryan. I'm the owner of Tiki Tacos and Burgers and Wings located on Washington Street, a newer restaurant that just opened last spring. As a small operation with no large financial backing, it is imperative to me and my staff that we control as much of our costs as we can. I am asking for the City Council to give thought on how it can do more to help local restaurants during an increasingly difficult time in such an imperative business to our vibrant community. Dealing with staff shortages, increased labor wages, widespread inflation, a pandemic, disruption in the supply chain, and many more issues have made an already volatile industry even more uncertain, looking towards the future. A forfeiture or a decrease of sidewalk cafe fees would go a long way to help our industry survive. I have one of the smallest patios in the downtown area, and I know that my $1,400 annual fee could go towards ensuring I have capital to pay my staff, capital improvements, beautifying said patio area, and many more areas in my restaurant. Operations to consider would be lowering of the of the permit fees, a monthly payment during the patio months instead of a large upfront sum, which is due after the slower winter months, or an every other year is waived type scenario. At the very least, I ask the City Council to consider these other options or more to help our local businesses survive during an already increasingly difficult time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone online would like to speak? Please raise your hand. Seeing no one, welcome.
Good evening, how are you?
Awesome and amazing. Welcome.
Thanks. My name is Josh Himmerfeld. I'm the owner of Donnelly's Pub, 110 East College Street in the Ped Mall downtown. I'm here to piggyback on what Joe and Brandon have already commented on this evening. The current cost burden of what is termed as the right-of-way fee for patio and outdoor dining space in our downtown area. So the way I see it, currently downtown businesses are creating a desirable location for, one, our citizens, two, our visitors, and three, our potential citizens to visit. Part of the way that we're doing that is via outdoor dining. There is no doubt at this point that it is a key attribute to a city and something that is desirable by, like I said, current citizens, potential citizens, and visitors as well. Not only is it desirable to them, it has now become an absolute necessity as a business. It's something that we must have, and it's something that we must provide to remain viable in a time when business, quite frankly, is as tough as it ever has been. If you'll allow a little bit of back-of-hand math on a Tuesday evening, my current patio fee, or right-of-way fee as it is termed, is $3,000 for the year. That gets me 12 seats. On a beautiful Iowa year, we might get 100 patio days. So we're putting that at about $30 a day for me to even exist having a patio, and about $2.50 a day per seat for that to even exist. That's obviously before any rain, any bug days, hot, humid days, things like that. So as you can see, just through that quick math, that can become quite a burden to a small business owner. I don't think I need to say a whole lot more than what my colleagues have already said, but we would certainly appreciate your consideration on lowering those fees in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome.
Hello.
And then I want to just make sure that you do sign your name.
I filled out
You already filled it out?
Yep, I dropped it in there.
Thank you. Great.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Awesome. Well, hello. My name is Elizabeth Wagner. I am an Iowa City resident and senior at the University of Iowa, and I am here tonight to ask you to prioritize and pass a resolution committing to 24/7 carbon-free electricity by 2030 for Iowa City. So today, when we turn on our lights or power up an appliance, that power is supplied from a mix of clean energy, but it continues to include power from coal plants. Achieving community-wide 24/7 carbon-free electricity closes this gap and eliminates emissions-producing power sources from the equation. Iowa City has been at the forefront in addressing the climate crisis. In 2019, the city declared a new target to reduce carbon emissions by 45% from 2010 levels and achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. However, what's notably missing from this commitment and the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan is an established clean energy goal. And while MidAmerican, our major energy provider, has made significant investments in wind energy, it still operates a large coal fleet that supplies energy to its customers, including Iowa City. MidAmerican Energy will not provide 100% renewable energy if they still plan on burning fossil fuels and delivering that energy to Iowa customers or selling it out of state. This current approach expects the city to rely on a mix of clean and dirty energy and does not aim to phase out fossil fuel usage enough to prevent the worst impacts of climate change. It's up to Iowa City to establish a real 100% clean energy goal and ensure that the city's electricity comes from carbon-free sources. Excuse me. Over 180 cities nationwide have adopted clean energy goals. In 2021, Des Moines City Council unanimously passed a resolution to reach community-wide 24/7 carbon-free electricity. And Iowa City can strengthen its role as a climate leader by being the next city to make this forward-looking and necessary commitment. The consequences of inaction are severe. The most recent report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says that international goals will be out of reach unless fossil fuels are significantly reduced by 2030. With action stalled at both the federal and the state level, the time is now for Iowa City to do its part to reduce power sector emissions. So a 24/7 carbon-free electricity goal is the most genuine decarbonization commitment that local governments can leverage to act on climate. And I ask that you prioritize this resolution to guarantee a truly sustainable and equitable future for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
My card's in there already. Good evening. My name is Deb Schollerman, and I'm an Iowa City resident and member of the 100 Grannies for a Livable Future. I'm here tonight as a representative of the 100% Iowa City Coalition to announce community-wide support for the passage of a 24/7 carbon-free electricity resolution. 100% Iowa City is a growing coalition of local individuals, organizations, and businesses that recognize the benefits and the necessity of committing to moving towards 100% clean electricity for Iowa City. We know that local action is the best way forward right now. Across the country, communities are leading the charge on solutions. Iowa City leaders have listened to citizen input and collaborated with the community. Iowa City is already established as a climate leader. However, it's time to do more to address the city's carbon emissions and the imminent threat of this climate crisis. Adopting the 100% Iowa resolution is one way to do that. Today, along with individual supporters, 25 organizations and businesses have signed on in support of a 24/7 carbon-free electricity resolution. You have been presented with 2 letters of support on behalf of these following groups: 100 Grannies for a Livable Future, Ostig Planning, A&W Sustainable Planning and Outreach, Center for Worker Justice of Eastern Iowa, Common Good Iowa, C-Wise Design and Consulting LLC, Dotlichi, Dream City, Jeff's Bike and Ski, Global Food Project of Iowa City, Great Plains Action Society, Green State Solutions, Integrated Power Corporation, Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement, Iowa City Bicycle Library, Iowa City Environmental Advocates, Iowa City Green Drinks, Iowa Interfaith Power and Light, Newman Monson Architects, Pawnee Clean, Inc., Physicians for Social Responsibility, Public Space One, Raygun, Sierra Club, Iowa Chapter, and the University of Iowa Environmental Coalition. Declaring a 24/7 carbon-free electricity commitment is a necessary step toward climate resiliency, cleaner air and water, environmental justice, and economic prosperity. We, as a coalition, ask that the City of Iowa City take this next step to ensure an equitable and sustainable future for Iowa City residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online like to address this time during public comment? Anyone else inside the chambers here? Seeing no one, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is 10, Planning and Zoning Matters, 10A, Vacation and Conveyance of Right-of-Way. This is an ordinance vacating an approximately 3,000 square feet of public right-of-way abutting 829 Kirkwood Avenue and authorizing conveyance to Rita Jane and Bradley J. Polson. This is second consideration, and staff has requested expedited action.
I move that the rule requiring that ordinances must be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended, that the second consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance be voted on for final passage at this time.
Second.
All right. Moved by Weiner, seconded by Taylor. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? And welcome Noah online.
All right, you can hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the right of way. So the right of way is the right thing to do is for the city to provide emergency shelter to people who need it now by opening up a shelter for the houseless who are currently forced to live on the street.
Directly to the agenda topic at hand.
Okay, so directly is the city needs to provide shelter to those who is currently refusing and forcing to live on the streets. Because right now what you're doing is not right, and it's not the right of way to force people to live on the streets. And that relates to the right of ways. Okay, so you're
on topic.
Well,
I've
the topic
already warned
is
you.
that you need to provide housing people you're forcing to live on the streets right now. And you should be really ashamed of that. Okay, I know you're going to mute me, but.
We're going to mute. Anyone else like to address this topic? Seeing no one, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weiner?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Could I get a motion to pass and adopt?
So moved. Taylor?
Second.
Seconded by Weiner. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, actually, we have to do roll call for this.
Yes,
Roll
thank
call, please.
Thank you. Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weiner?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 11 is Benton Street Rehabilitation. This is a resolution approving project manual and estimate of cost for the construction of the Benton Street Rehabilitation Project, establishing amount of bid security to accompany each bid, directing the city clerk to post notice to bidders, and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. And I'm going to open the public hearing, and we're going to start with our staff. Welcome, Melissa.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Clough with the City of Iowa City Engineering Division, and I was here previously in December to present Benton Street. We are facing a situation where we took bids through the DOT on January 19th. We received one bid that exceeded the engineer's estimate of probable cost by more than 40%. So in turn rejected that, and we are scheduled to rebid on June 21st, 2022. So as previously, the project corridor remains from Greenwood Drive to Mormon Truck Boulevard. There was previous diamond grinding completed on the project in 2007, but the pavements continued to deteriorate since then. So the MPOJC programmed $1.3 million in STBG funding in the 21-24 TIP for rehabilitation. This project is partially funded by the Iowa DOT, and it includes the crack and seat of an existing pavement with a 3-inch asphalt overlay. We talked previously, this machine seen in the upper right corner will be used to crack the existing PCC pavement and create a flexible base to put the 3-inch asphalt overlay on top of. Side street intersections will be reconstructed with ADA sidewalk improvements. Pavement widening and signal improvements will occur at the Sunset intersection. We are moving forward with water main and storm sewer improvements, and there will be new 5-foot bike lanes. The changes to the rebid plan set include clarification of items that were added by addendum during the first bid period. We also added 2 critical closure periods for sewer work. There's some storm sewer manholes that will be installed in the middle of Benton Street. So to aid the contractor, we've looked at closing down just that section to give them the ability to use the road and get that work completed. Our revised phasing also provides additional flexibility to the contractor. They will be able to start construction this fall or next spring. And that's in response to material and schedule challenges that they've all been facing. We've also clarified the separation of water from an existing high-pressure gas line that exists. The estimated construction cost has been increased to $4.2 million. This was revised by McClure Engineering after the rejection of the first bid and is based on current awarded contract prices that are reported by the Iowa DOT. So the project timeline becomes the bid letting on June 21st with an award date projected to be July 5th. Construction can start this fall or next spring and will be completed by the fall of 2023. And with that, are there any questions?
Thank you. All right. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, step up to the podium. If you're online, please raise your hand. And I'm just going to, again, just remind anyone that wants to speak that they need to speak on topic. And I also wanted to just remind that I'll give a verbal warning. And then after such, I will not recognize the speaker after that. Welcome, Noah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Hello, and thank you for the reminder, but I'm going to ignore it. So provide emergency shelter to those who are currently forced to live on the street. Stop forcing.
Thank you. And Noah, you will not be recognized the rest of this meeting during comment. Anyone else like to address the topic? I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Thomas.
Second, Alter.
Council discussion.
I drive Benton Street quite often because that's just in my neighborhood. So I'm happy to see this, although I do have a lot of concerns about it. It is, some people might not be aware that it's a pretty major east-west roadway for the city, and particularly that Sunset intersection with the school, Horn Elementary. There's a lot of young children there and bicycles. And speaking of bicycles, I'm happy to see that because also driving on Benton, I fear for some of the bicycles that are brave enough to ride on Benton Street, because if there's some, one day there was a UPS truck parked actually in the bike lane, and the bike had to swerve around it and into traffic, and that's very dangerous. But I think if we have wider and more apparent bike lanes, that'll be good. So I do like that. I do have concerns about the closing down part of it, though. I guess I didn't ask about that, but it also during football season is a very major roadway for people coming and going from Kinnick. If they're not using Melrose, they're using Benton. So I do have concerns about that being part of that being closed down in the fall, and would hope that we could do 1 lane versus 2 lane kind of thing.
We would be looking at restricting that when it's not during a football weekend, and it's for 5 days maximum.
Just 5 days. Okay, thank you very much. I was concerned that it'd be the whole fall season, and that would not be good. Thank you. That clarifies that.
I just want to follow up on what Pauline was talking about in that intersection with Sunset and Benton. I'm very happy to see that that's going to be part of the overhaul, because I do think it's going to be, especially with the hill, vision is difficult and it is a busy intersection. So that's good news that this is going to be taking shape and getting taken care of.
I just wanted to comment on something that we talked about earlier. We're probably going to see more of this going forward, with not knowing what the delivery pipeline will be like, not knowing what costs are going to be going forward, as well as with more constrained budgets. It's something we're going to, as council, going to have to pay very close attention to, is the financial part, driven by an uneven supply chain and raised commodity prices right now.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weiner?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 12 is Northminster Storm Sewer Improvements. Resolution approving project manual and estimate of cost for the construction of the North Westminster Storm Sewer Improvements Project, establishing amount of bid security to accompany each bid, directing city clerk to post notice to bidders, and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. I'm going to open the public hearing, and welcome.
Hi, my name's Ben Clark. I'm from the engineering division. Here to talk about, just give you an overview of the project. So our project is located on the northeast side of town, over kind of by Lemmy Elementary School. If we zoom in a little, you can see the bulk of the project is at the intersection of North Westminster Street and Washington Street. Quick timeline: in about the year 2015, and even before, we started receiving reports of flooding on the street. We had a drainage study conducted in 2017, got a project in the program in 2019, been going through the design phase, and we're ready to put the project out to bid. A couple pictures of what the problem is. You can see the photo on the left. We had some flooding on Washington Street. Stalled cars were in that area. You can see on the right, we've got the street full of water. That's North Westminster. Just an overview of our drainage study shows how big that drainage area is. It covers quite a bit of an area. We've identified down at the bottom some deficiencies in the storm pipe. Pay attention to the red lines at the very bottom center. Just a table, you'll notice those red lines are deficient. They don't even handle a one-year storm. So our design guidelines are about a 5-year event. So we're going to focus on those lines. Just a general overview of the project. upsizing the pipe from like a 36-inch to a 42, generally in those areas. Timeline, take bids May 10th, award the contract May, hopefully start this summer, and then we're giving them some flexibility to finish in the spring of '23, just to try to get good bids. That's all I have. Are there any questions?
I don't hear any. Thank you so much. Anyone from the public would like to address this topic? And a welcome, John, online.
Hello. Hello, I'm calling to tell y'all to stop forcing
Okay,
people to live on.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address this topic? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved by Thomas, seconded by Burgess.
Taylor.
By Taylor.
Oh.
Taylor
Oh.
Burgess. That's all right.
Taylor, seconded by Burgess. And council discussion.
I appreciated the presentation. It was interesting. When I looked at the plan, I kind of wondered why in this particular area are these sewers being replaced, and showing the watershed that's being served by those sewer lines. It became very clear. So thanks for the presentation.
I just end up wondering as we've heard this evening as well about climate change, if there are going to be more areas in the city where we're going to find that, looking forward 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that we'll need to increase the size of those sewage lines as well.
Well, this is for a 5-year event, you said now?
Yep.
Yeah, so we've identified some areas that don't meet our current standards, and that's just being able to convey a 5-year storm. So that's about 3.75 inches in a day, 24 hours. So we'll just bring those up to our current standards.
So we'll probably still see flooding, just not as often.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Weiner,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We're on to item number 13, which is Weatherby Park Sidewalk and Driveway. This is a resolution approving project manual and estimate of cost for the construction of the Weatherby Park Sidewalk and Driveway project, establishing amount of bid security to accompany each bid, directing city clerk to post notice to bidders, and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. I'm going to open the public hearing, and welcome.
Hi, I'm Ethan Yoder with the Engineering Division. So the Weatherby Park project, it's including putting in 88 curb ramps across Taylor Drive, and then extending the sidewalk from Taylor Drive to the park, so that way pedestrians don't have to cross the parking lot. We're including entrance reconstruction. It's in not the best shape, so we're planning on improving that while we're here. Improving the west trail connection, which is on the left side of the screen there. And then we're also including sidewalk to the community gardens. The cost estimate for the project was $93,000. We plan on doing the bid letting on May 10th, accepting bids on May 17th, with construction to start in June this year, and should be completed by the fall of this year. Are there any questions?
How will that impact, actually, since that's going to be taking place over the summer, in terms of existing entrance, since that's really the only entrance into the park unless you're walking in? How will that affect people trying to get in who need to drive?
Yep, that's something we can work with the contractor on, trying to do it in pieces, so that way there's still a path to be able to get into the park, because I know that it actually gets quite a bit of use, especially the community gardens and the splash pad. So we'll plan on trying to make sure that we can still allow access.
Thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Weiner.
Seconded, Burgess.
All right, and council discussion. I will say that this is a very needed sidewalk in some of the spaces. So thanks for the staff for working on this.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah, and the community gardens are very popular at that location. I think they were all sold up, so, yep. Roll call, please.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 14 is utility rate public hearing resolution. This is an ordinance amending Title III, entitled Finance, Taxation, and Fees, Chapter 4, entitled Schedule of Fees, Rates, Charges, Bonds, Fines, and Penalties, Article 5, entitled Solid Waste Disposal. I'm going to open the public hearing, and welcome.
Mayor and Council, I'm here to go over the rate increases in the refuse fund that was approved with the FY13 budget. There's actually 3 different rates. The first one is for the yard waste. Again, approved as part of the FY23 budget. This is a rate increase of $1.50 per dwelling unit per month. And this is also mirrored with an increase in any additional carts. So that's the monthly rate going from $2 to $3.50 per month. And that would be effective July 1st. This will generate approximately $285,000 annually, and this is to cover the increased set-out rates, the cost of fuel, equipment, and labor that are all increasing. And this rate has not been increased since it was first adopted in FY18. And this, then just to give you a brief history of so the bars, the solid bars, are the amount of collection that has happened through the last 5 years. The green line is the expenses. You can see an uptick between 19 and 20. That was almost all carts. For a couple, I think there's 3 shipments in there of carts that year. So that's why you see that uptick, and then it's come back down a little bit. The next rate is the curbside solid waste. This is going an increase of $1 per dwelling unit per month, and again, mirrored with any additional carts. So the monthly rate is going from 12 to 13, effective July 1st, and will generate approximately $190,000 annually. And again, to cover increased costs, increased tonnage, fuel, equipment, labor. And the last curbside waste fee increase was 20 cents per unit, per dwelling unit per month in FY 2018 as well. So solid waste collections, again, the solid green bars is the amount of tonnage collected. You can see the large increase in 21. That's thanks to the derecho and COVID. And then obviously the costs increase with that. And most of that's the cost at the landfill to dispose of all of the additional refuse. And the third increase is in the recycling rate. This is 50 cents per dwelling unit per month. So the monthly rate will be going from $6 to $6.50 effective July 1st, and will generate approximately $95,000 annually. Again, same things, fuel, equipment, and labor increased costs. The last curbside recycling fee was increased 90 cents per dwelling unit in FY21. So again, the green bar is the amount of recycling, which has seen a little steady increase. Same with the increasing costs at about the same rate as increased tonnage. This is the overall fund. So you can see even with these rate increases, we're still projecting a slight deficit in those years. But what I would say is we budget pretty conservatively, so hopefully we would actually come out ahead, but this gets us much closer to what the gap would be without these rate increases. So again, just overall, the rate changes, the curbside yard waste, $1.50 per dwelling unit per month. as well as the additional carts, the curbside solid waste, $1 per unit per month, and then the recycling, the 50 cents per unit per month. So an estimated $570,000 annual increase in total revenue. Any questions?
Are there any, like, low-income rates incorporated into that, or plans for that, for those with lower income? Or do you currently have that, or are there plans to
There
include
are
that?
already current low income rates.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you exactly what they are off the top of my head, but.
Thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to give first consideration?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved by Hermson, seconded by Burgess. Council discussion?
I asked the question about the low-income rates because I do have some concerns, and looking at the data you provided, that at one time it was only increased by 20 cents, another time, and one of the other items was only increased by 90 cents. Are we wed to these amounts? I mean, I know you've shared some great financial data about what it's going to give us for revenue, but I do have concerns for our low-income folks. They live from penny to penny, literally, a lot of them, and $3 might not sound a lot to some folks, but for those that are living on limited incomes, I do have concerns on the bump up that we're proposing.
Yeah, I think you can respond to that. I think you saw with the projections, we're not even projecting a revenue increase to cover our projected expenses going forward. As Nicole mentioned, we hope that that works itself out over time due to mostly conservative budgeting principles that we have. But this is an enterprise fund, so the rates that we're charging are what we need to pay the staff and fuel the vehicles and dispose of whatever it is that we're picking up. There's no extra built in there. It's not like these fees are supporting public safety initiatives or parks initiatives or anything like that. We really just focus on what it costs to operate the service. And of course, we always try to find efficiencies when we can and where we can. I think we do a good job of that. But if you weren't comfortable with the full $3, I think what you'd have to expect is that you're going to force yourself into probably a bigger rate increase down the road a little bit. So if you wanted to do $1, $2 this year, instead of that $1 or $2 a couple years down the road, which has been our trend, you're probably going to have a more painful increase, if you will, a few years down the road. And that's what we try to avoid with these budgets. We try to do smaller increases. We try to stagger them, so we're not increasing water at the same time we're increasing refuse or stormwater, and make that hit just a little bit more palatable. But we understand it's a lot.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, it is hard to approve these rate increases, but as Jeff mentioned, with it being an enterprise fund, we do need to be able to try and meet our expenses. And thank you, Nicole, for that explanation of this is still actually anticipating some gap that we won't quite be making it, but it'll be close enough that we're comfortable. I think with the $2.50 of the $3 being rates that haven't moved for 5 fiscal years makes me a lot more comfortable to think about that as well. That's a pretty long period of time.
Yeah, the discount is 75% of the fee. So if you sign up for our utility discount program, you get not only a discount on the refuse, but that's also the water and the sewer and stormwater collections. But it's actually a 75% discount on the refuse components.
Thank you. That's good to know.
Thanks, that's helpful.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Burgess.
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Weiner.
Yes.
Alter.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. I did want to maybe have item number 17. Let's do item number 17 since we're done with our public hearings. And we'll do item number 17, which is Forest View relocation plan. This is a resolution approving the Forest View.
If I may, Your Mayor, because it constitutes a change in the agenda, if we could just have a motion to make that change, we can go.
Sure.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Item number 17, Forest View relocation plan. This is a resolution approving the Forest View relocation plan. And could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Weiner.
Second. Taylor.
Moved by Weiner, seconded by Taylor. And I'm going to welcome Rachel, our Assistant City Manager.
Mayor and City Council, Rachel Kilberg, Assistant City Manager. So as you mentioned, this resolution will authorize us to carry out the Forest View Mobile Home Relocation Plan. All the way back in 2019, the city had approved a conditional zoning agreement for the redevelopment of the area that encompassed Forest View. That CZA required the owner to provide relocation assistance to all the households living there at the time. However, since then, that development has lost its viability. This was compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic. And meanwhile, those housing conditions have continued to deteriorate, and there has been a severe lack of investment in the neighborhood. The city has provided some stopgap kind of home repair efforts in the recent years, but many of those mobile homes are beyond repair, and a proactive solution has been needed to help these residents relocate to safer, decent housing. So in September of 2021, after ARPA public input, City Council had prioritized using ARPA funds to address this challenge. And since then, city staff has worked with the tenants to develop this voluntary relocation plan. I walked you through that in detail at today's work session, but in short, it'll provide relocation payments in the amount of $15,750 to all of the residents, as well as to provide assistance through local social service agencies to find new housing. This plan also includes using local funds to compensate those households who lived in Forest View at the time of the 2019 CZA but moved out prior to the onset of the pandemic in March of 2020. Happy to take any questions.
Just one point of clarification. You'd said $15,750 for all residents. It's for each household, which I know you know when you gave us
I
that
apologize.
presentation. But for
Yes,
anybody
per
just
household.
for anybody listening, just so we don't confuse.
Thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
And the other clarification, which you had given us earlier, was the ARPA funds. Anyone who receives the amount through the ARPA funds, they will not be taxable. The funds that are from regular city funds will be.
That's correct.
All right, any other questions for staff? I did want to just make sure that when, in May, I know there will be the process of having people come and apply. Checks will be issued at a separate time, is that correct, after?
Yep, that's correct. So we expect that in early May, we'll be able to get all of the kind of eligibility information collected in an order, and then just a couple of weeks to process that and cut the checks by the end of May.
Right.
That would be the first check for those households who are receiving 2 checks, and then the single full amount for those households who have already vacated.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please sign in at the podium or place your sticker in the basket. Welcome. Yep. And please state your name and the city you're from.
Okay. Oh, that's ready. Okay. Thank you for your time. My name is Margarita.
Sí. I'm going to translate for her. My name is Gustavo Flores.
Okay. Gracias. Y solo queremos agradecer por esta oportunidad que nos dieron.
We would like to thank you for this opportunity that you guys gave us and the help you're providing.
Gracias por ayudar y escuchar a las personas.
Thank you for listening to us and help us very, very much.
Ustedes saben que hemos trabajado durante mucho tiempo.
You guys know that we've been working for this kind of help for the longest time, many, many years.
Yo recuerdo cuando vine la primera vez, mi hija tenía casi 4 años
I remember the first time we were here, my daughter was only 4 years old,
y ahora ya va a cumplir los 11 años.
and now she's going to be 11 years old.
Y gracias por todo el apoyo. Y seguimos trabajando para, no, esta vez fue para Forest View, y queremos seguir trabajando para que no pase más en otras personas.
We would like to thank you for all the help you're providing us, which is way, a lot of help. We consider that not only are we helping each other in Forest View, but we would like to help other people in our community not to go for that bad times that we went through. But because even though we have had bad times, this help means a lot to us, and we would like to help other people not to go through what we're going through.
Y gracias en nombre de todos los niños de Forest View,
Thank you in the name of all the kids, every
de-
single minor in Forest View,
de todas las personas mayores de Forest View,
and all citizens living in Forest View. We would like to thank you a lot.
y en mi persona, gracias a todos.
On my behalf, thank you very much.
Y seguimos trabajando juntos.
And we would like to be working together with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
My name is Mazar Saleh. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Worker Justice. I just here to echo the same thing that Margarita said. Was like really a tough journey for Forest View residents. 7 years. They are fighting with a big dream that they're going to, at the end, they will get a house in the same area where they've been living there for 40 years. So unfortunately, it's not happening now. But the city was really in this side since like this beginning of this project. The city was in their side by like moving this forward, approving the planning and zoning, and approving the affordable housing and everything. But unfortunately, it's not happening now. It's very sad for them. Suddenly, all this dream just disappeared, and and also they have to go now and just rent somewhere else. Their rent suddenly from $310 will be for 2-bedroom $900. It would be really tough for them. But the city stepped up voluntarily. You don't have to do that, but you take the initiative to just relocate, help those people relocate, and approving this $15,000. This is really amazing. Thank you so much. A special thank to all of you, and a special thank to the city manager and the assistant city manager, Tracy Hatchus, and all the staff that work on this. And I guess this is on behalf of the residents. Everybody really just happy that you are thinking of them and try to help them relocate. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you
Hello.
for being here with me. I know you guys could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here, and I appreciate it. And my colleagues here from Forestville Trailer Court appreciate it too. I don't have anything written down because everything comes from my heart.
How about telling us your name and where you're from?
Yes, of course. I am sorry. My name is Margarita Rodriguez, and I live at Forestville Trailer Court. And of course, as you all know, I am the president of the association there, and I try my best to do everything correctly for them and go ahead and forward for all this that we've been going through. Going back to say thank you for everybody for being there, supporting us, and every single point of view that you all have. But I want to make a statement here that we are 4 people, or 5 people more likely, that are making a little bit that the minimum wage, I believe, more than the people that are making low income. And I would really, really appreciate it if you all have a heart in yourself and get us involved with the same thing and not go out there with less than other people. Because like they have said, we are paying $310, right? And you're gonna go out there and you're gonna look for an apartment, a house, and you're gonna pay triple the amount, $900, maybe 1,000. It all depends, you know, what you're looking for and what safety is out there. So just have a little consideration and believe in yourself by saying, what if it was me? What if I go out there and I can't find what it should be out there for us? Safety. You know, like y'all said, on the construction, on the sidewalk being deteriorated and stuff like that, you know, we all have kids, others more than others. But I mean, I really, really appreciate you all for being there for us and coming out with this amount. I know that I couldn't have done it myself, you know, but I really, really appreciate it to have a little bit more consideration and think about this for only 5 people more. That's all I'm asking for. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address this topic?
Good evening, Council.
Welcome.
My name is Charlie Eastham. I live in Iowa City. I'm here, the expression of why we're doing this evening, why you're doing this has already been given, and I want to honor that and respect it very much. I actually just wanted to congratulate you as a group because, one, all of you, I know, including the city manager, have at various times visited with, talked with, in groups with people who live in Forest View and are here tonight to talk with you about what the situation is there, and you have listened to them. That makes a difference to me. It's what I try to do in my work, too. And we are successful at this point in addressing immediate needs. We need to do a little bit more, perhaps, but we've done a lot of work together at this point. That's not something, you know, that has always happened in the city, in this community, but you have individually and collectively made something happen that we have not experienced before, and you should feel good about yourselves for doing that. I hope you do. We may have had disagreements from time to time. We may have more disagreements from time to time, but we're still working together in partnership with each other. And again, you should feel really proud of yourselves for doing that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address this topic? Seeing no one. Council discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to say a couple of, very briefly in Spanish and English. Gracias a ustedes para su trabajo. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for your work. Y hay momentos en que tenemos una obligación moral. There are moments when we have a moral obligation, and that's all I wanted to say.
I want to say, and I'll go on what Charlie had said, that I can hardly even say how very proud I am of our city of Iowa City, for how we've stepped up, even right from the beginning, and trying to make some plans that would be acceptable so that these folks weren't just uprooted from their homes, right down to the fact that we've invested a lot of money, let's see here, it's money to the Iowa City Federation of Labor and to Habitat for Humanity, thousands of dollars to go in and try to help fix these homes so that they would be livable for as long as they could possibly have to live in that. It was $5,000 to City Fed and $17,500 to Habitat. And that's a major investment. And so I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of what we as a council have decided upon for the amount of money, for your assistance. And I'm proud of you all. I've said it before, your courage and your strength has just amazed me. You are great role models to your children, your family members, and the entire community of Iowa City. That's all.
I was elected in October of 2018, and this was one of the first topics that was on the agenda. And I remember this room being filled to the brim with so many people coming to express their hope and their desires, their dreams. And boy, were we excited when we got to that point of making an approval. And then today we're here, where those hopes and those dreams are different. But there's still hope. And I want to thank my fellow counselors for really seeing the opportunity that we had. And I would agree with Councilor Weiner that there was a moral obligation that we saw. I'm going to give a special thanks to all of our city staff that's been working on this. We know that our directors often get, the praise, and I'm going to praise them in a second. But thanks to all the staff that is in the background that is also working on this. Tracy Highshoe, she has to be thanked. Rachel, thank you so much. And to our city manager, Jeff, really appreciate working hand in hand as these individuals, residents have came and shared not only here publicly, but on an individual basis. They've been very appreciative of the transparency, as well as the opportunity to tell their story and for you listening. So I really appreciate that. This is kind of an exciting day because this is an opportunity for us to approve some money for the transition. And I think it's awesome and amazing, although I'm also reminded that this road won't be easy for a lot because of the rents in our community. And I think that is something for us to continue to work on. I know this council is really dedicated to looking at more opportunity to foster affordable rents. We do what we can. We wish we could open up the floodgates of all the funds, but that's not, all that feasible, but there's still hope there. I'm going to be very proud to approve this today.
As a counselor who came in kind of at the end of this process, I remember watching the approval of the Forest View development and being so impressed that the developer came forward with the Tenants Association for a joint application and saw kind of all the effort that went into that. And it, many difficult and sad circumstances that bring us to the point that that couldn't be realized. But I hope that this is showing meaningful commitment from the city to be able to move forward. And I also just want to echo what my colleagues have said about the effectiveness of our staff working with the tenants. In particular, the fact that I don't know that this level of support would have been possible without the American Rescue Plan Act funds that we received. And I know it's probably the money may be coming later than people would have wished, given how long you've been waiting and how much you've been through. But the effectiveness of our staff to create a program and to be able to execute so quickly, and to my colleagues to be able to, we didn't agree on every detail in getting to this point, but I think we were able to come together, and I'm just very proud of how we were able to do that work as a community. Thank you.
I too am really pleased and proud of all of us, I think, and where we've arrived here. It was a difficult process, and really just the last aspect of something that had a 6-year duration. I mean, a long process with high hopes. And I think at least this sense of high hope has been expressed in this relocation plan, that we did work our best, I think, showed our best side in trying to make that a smooth transition. And it was deliberative in the sense of all of us, staff included, You guys did a great job with the implementation of this. So, as Charlie said, I'm quite pleased and proud that we as a community expressed that sense of obligation to one another. That's what community is. If without obligation, there is no community. So thank you again.
I would just like to really echo, I mean, I can't really say any better, the list of thank yous for the people that were involved in this. One thing I will add, and one of my colleagues had mentioned earlier about the inspiration that y'all have provided to your children, but I would also extend that you've provided an inspiration with community organizing far beyond Forest View. As we all sitting here know, we're in the middle of multiple concerns about the future of mobile home courts and other affordable housing in our community. And I've seen firsthand the organization that has happened in other mobile home courts, and during those efforts, those early efforts to organize some of those places, Forest View and the people that help with Forest View were right there lifting up you all as an example of what can happen if people are willing to put in the work and come together and stick with it over time. And you don't really know where you're going to end up, but you know you're going to end up somewhere better than if you hadn't done anything at all. And I think tonight is another reminder of that. And it's not just for the people of Forest View, but I think there's a message that ripples out beyond that. So thank you all.
And if I can just, I wish I was as eloquent as everyone, but I'm just going to follow up to say that what you have shown in your persistence, in your continued efforts when there have been obstacles, to say, how do we problem solve? How do we get around it? How can we all do this together? Knowing that we don't all agree as a council, sometimes with the association and council previous and now, and yet you showed the way for how this work gets done. And I echo what Sean said, is that it ripples out in terms of truly what community effort, collaboration, and persistence is. And so often, that persistence can be worn down. And your strength, in addition to your inspiration, your hope, just the sheer strength in the face of enormous challenge is truly inspiring. But it's a model for how we all should work as a community. And I think that you really helped show a way for how we all can work better together in the face of some enormous odds. I wish that this was not the outcome, but I am so, so glad that we are able to get things to you now at a state where there is little choice, but as a council, we did not say, or staff in particular, said, it's not a matter of washing our hands. We have an obligation. We have an obligation to the work that you have done and respect. And so I'm grateful that you all have hung in here with us and shown us the way to work better. And I also just want to add 2 additional names, because I know, as we all say, sort of unsung heroes. I also want to shout out Erica and Cassie as well. I know that they were instrumental in all of this. So just thank you so very much to all of the work that you have done to show us how to work better.
Right. I think it would also be remiss for us to not recognize our old Mayor Pro Tem, Salih, who has been very instrumental in supporting the residents along the way. So thanks to you. I think we're ready for roll call.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor,
Very much so, yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
And it passes with an awesome and amazing 7-0. Now, could I get a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved, Taylor.
Second, Weiner.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We're going to go back to item
15.
number 15, which is the 2022 Go Bonds bidding procedure. This is a resolution directing the advertisement for sale of $10,255,000 General Obligation Bonds Series 2022 and approving electronic bidding procedures and distribution of preliminary official statement. And could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Thomas.
Second, Alter.
And welcome again, Nicole.
Yes, I'm back. Nicole Davies, Finance Director. I'll keep this brief. This is the next step in issuing the city's general obligation bonds to fund our CIP plan for the year. So this resolution approves the advertisement of our almost $10.3 million general obligation bonds. It also approves the sale documents, which is our preliminary official statement, and this is what is sent out to potential bidders for the city's bonds. This also approves the procedures that will be used to bid on these bonds. The sale will happen on Tuesday, May 4th in the morning, and that evening we will bring back the results of the bidding to council for approval. Any questions?
No questions, thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one, council discussion.
Always thankful that we have a AAA rating.
Roll call, please.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 16 is social justice and racial equity grants. This is a resolution adopting the social justice and racial equity grant allocations for fiscal year 2022. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Burgess.
Second, Alter.
And we're going to welcome our Human Rights Commissioner Chair, Jason Glass. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. As mentioned, I'm Jason Glass with the Iowa City Human Rights Commission. The info on all the grants is in your packets. I'll highlight a couple of things in there. In 2017, the City Council created the Social Justice and Racial Equity Grants to assist community-based organizations in building capacity to address social justice and racial equity needs. $75,000 has been allocated yearly for the grants and since fiscal year 2019. And I will make note that it's in the packet as well that we have, the Human Rights Commission has recommended the City Council to increase that amount to $150,000 in future years. There are many very, very worthy projects that we are not able to recommend to you each year because we are limited by that funding. So it'd be a great way to continue to push our racial equity and agenda here in the Iowa City. So the grant is available for Iowa City-based organizations to fund programs, activities, and services that eliminate inequities in the community. They were eligible to apply, any organization was eligible to apply from December 1st of 2021 until January 7th of 2022. Now it's after a lot of educational sessions that are put on by the city, both city staff and the commissioners in working with those organizations that are interested in applying. 7 of our 9 commissioners then read through 19 grants that we had this year, which all are several pages long. So that's our homework in January, is to read through many of these grants. 2 of our commissioners had direct relationships with a few of the grantees, so had to abstain from doing that. So 7 of us read through all those, scored those, and then in our February 22nd meeting, we reviewed our cumulative scores and then discussed all those grants, resulting. By the way, those 19 requests were for a total of $240,000. We have $75,000 to allocate. Both the full list of grant applications and their amounts are in your packet, as well as the ones that we are now recommending to you. There are some brief synopsis of each of the proposals in your packet as well, so I'll let you read those. But the grantees that we are recommending are the Multicultural Development Center of Iowa for $10,000, Open Heartland for $9,000, the Center for Worker Justice for $18,000, Great Plains Action Society for $5,000, Iowa City Compassion for $15,000, Houses into Homes for $15,000, and the Iowa City Area Chinese Association for $3,000. So, and most of those are very near fully funded for what they requested. We did shave off a few dollars on a few of those grants from what they requested, so that we could grant one more full grant to one more application. So, with that, I will entertain any questions you have and encourage you to approve the grants as we have recommended.
Thank you, Jason, for your presentation and all of the material you'd sent. I appreciate the work of the commission to do this. It's not an easy task, I'm sure, every year, but you do it and you come forth with some excellent rationale. And I wondered if, when you're proposing the bumping it up, is that so that you might be able to give it to more of these, like the 16 or so that are left, or increase the amounts that you're able to give to each group, or kind of a combination of that, increase the number and the amount?
It's a great question. My first priority is to grant more, a larger number of grants.
Right.
So in fact, we tend to prioritize grants that are a very specific amount. The grant, the most that any one organization can apply for is $25,000. There are some grantees that request that amount, but I think we actually give some priority to organizations that have a very targeted, specific amount, because that's usually tied to a very specific project, as opposed to something that's more like their general funding. So I'm not opposed to either, but certainly would like to include more organizations in what we are able to grant.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certainly echo that. Just thank you to you and the commission for going through all of this process, sorting through all that, evaluating and trying to make judgments from so many worthy causes, and that's a tough thing to do. So thank you for doing that for.
It's a lot of reading, but it's a labor of love, and it makes it all worth it when the grants get issued and we get to see the reports back of all the great work that gets done. So.
And I think it mentioned in the packet that there were, of the 7 organizations that were granted, 5 of them had not been funded by this grant before. Does that sound
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
Yep. So
That's cool.
there's 2 repeats in there, which are still very worthy projects, obviously. And we make a conscious effort to try to steer money towards organizations that have not received city funding before, or aren't receiving funding from maybe some other sources because it means there are probably projects that would not otherwise happen if not for this grant. So.
Thank you.
Impressed by the breadth of the organizations and the different communities that will be impacted.
I too will say just thank you for doing the work, and the commission doing the work. This is not an easy task, and to be able to narrow it down, and I appreciate your suggestion that I think it's just based on what you're seeing being submitted, that there's a lot of good work out there that just the funding wasn't there to provide for them. But it does reveal how rich, the community is in terms of being able to respond to this grant program, and that's exciting.
Agreed. So yeah, we're blessed with a lot of great organizations that are doing great work. So, yeah.
Any other questions from council? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one, council discussion?
If I'm understanding this correctly, we've got sort of 2 things for discussion, correct? Has the money been approved for $150,000?
No, there's
No, so-
$75,000 for these awards. Your next year's budget,
Oh,
we
and
did.
it's the recommendation
We
is
did
next
bump it to
year.
100,000 next year. So
Okay.
that's the approved budget. So next time we have a cycle, there'll be 100.
Gotcha.
If you want to fund more than the 75,000 tonight, we'll have to find alternative revenues in the budget
That was
to
kind of
cover
my
that.
question,
And I can help you navigate that if you
Yeah.
want to get into that discussion. But the vote tonight is just on the 75,000.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood, because I understood as well that there was a unanimous recommendation for $150,000 from,
From HCDC.
Right, but it's not on
From-
our agenda.
Not ours.
Yeah.
it's okay, never mind. I had a moment there.
I think the work of the commission has been great as described, and it's always a hard thing to try to determine, which agencies you're going to grant some funds to when you have so many great applicants, some that you still know could utilize the help, but, the end of that process stops here. I know we won't get into, it is an agenda item, and they have their recommendations to council. I do think, in the future, near future, this council could entertain the recommended 150,000, and I think we have our Black Lives Matter, $1 million that we can probably allocate these funds to. And so that's something that I would encourage this council to think about, and maybe we can revisit this with our HCDC to see what, to see if they will also recommend the remainder of those individuals for the grants.
The Human Rights Commission, Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry.
Did I say
Okay.
HCDC?
Just want to just clarify.
That's,
Okay,
that's our
the
next
other one.
agenda.
Yeah.
That's our next agenda item.
Yep. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm struck by how, others have said it, but I am struck by how well the projects are actually reaching out to different parts of the community and really attending to particular needs. And as Jason, you said, the ones that often really hit strongly are the ones that they've so thoroughly thought through the project, and they have such specific and well-articulated sort of scope of what they want to do. And so it's a real pleasure to see the amount of scrutiny and thought that you all put into it. So, I mean, I think this is a really representative and rich bunch of awardees, potential awardees. I would support this, in other words.
All right, roll call, please.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 18 is council appointments. Applicants must reside in Iowa City and be 18 years of age unless specific qualifications are stated. 18A is a Housing and Community Development Commission. Housing and Community Development Commission, one vacancy to fill an unexpired term, effective upon appointment through June 30th, 2023. We're going to do this together, so we're going to also read 18B, which is Housing and Community Development Commission. Housing and Community Development Commission, one vacancy to fill an unexpired term effective upon appointment through June 30th, 2024. And we have gender requirements for these. Female.
Nope, none.
Actually
Two
don't,
none.
but most of
It's
them are
past the gender
female.
balance date.
Which is odd, because
Past the
Both of
dead-
them?
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, we'll probably end up appointing two females.
So none. That makes it a little easier. All right.
I'll just jump in. I like the application from Carol Krotz. And I think she should be one of our appointees.
I agree.
I have her as on my short list, too.
Yeah, I had an asterisk by her name also, because I thought she seemed to know a lot about the commission and a good understanding of it, and looked like and sounded like she would be a good fit.
I agree. She was also on my short list.
Another person on my short list is Elizabeth Maria Kopp. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but she has served on a different city commission before, on the Public Arts Advisory Commission, but seemed to me to have a lot of relevant experience that could really benefit HCDC.
She was on my short list also. I did have a question, though, since she works through the crisis intervention system. Would that be a conflict of interest at all with the community, if the community might receive any sort of support? Nope, because, yeah, I liked her resume.
Any other?
Those were also on my short list, so.
I'm not necessarily opposed to Elizabeth Maria Kopp, but some previous experience that I've had with HCDC is, and similarly, actually, I brought this up with, or we've had discussion about this with the Police Review Board, about the nearness of the work in terms of volunteering or of career, and that there might be the potential of having that particular point of view flavor the work of of that commissioner. So, like I said, I think she's very qualified, but has a wealth of experience, but I wonder if that would necessarily serve the commission well in all of its facets. Certainly, one major component, and I'm reminded from the chair of HRC, talking about January being grant reading month, it is absolutely that and then some for HCDC, but that's not the only thing that HCDC does. And a lot of times in the past when I was on HCDC, we had some really amazing, experienced commissioners. But I feel like there's the potential that some discussions could get flavored a bit much with those particular perspectives with people who are very, very close to the work. It's a fine tightrope. So I just offer that up as something for consideration without saying I'm against this person. It's just something to consider in the same way that we talked about the closeness to the considerations of a commission when we were talking about it on the Police Review Board. Sorry, and I completely
It's okay. So right now, we have two recommendations, Carol and Elizabeth. Are there any other?
I did also have on my short list, I think it was, I cannot remember her first name, but Haylett.
Jennifer?
Yes, thank you.
She was the third person on my short list as well. I just think, I personally think we need to be careful about imputing or sort of assuming what people can do and what they can't do. And you may well be right, but I think that that it's not necessarily our job to make assumptions about what someone is capable of, how they're capable of separating issues out and dealing with them. So.
The one thing I will say is that, well, there's something to be said about someone being on the commission before. Sometimes we do look for people on a commission, depending on what type of commission that is, because they may have a little more knowledge to jump in and kind of help that commission along. We do have, two opportunities of names that's been submitted right now that has not been on the commission. And so, I think newness is always something that could be welcomed, new perspectives, new ideas. And so I guess for me, I don't know if there's any more nominations. I haven't heard any, but I would be comfortable with Carol and Jennifer being nominated.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have majority for the nominations of Carol Cross and Jennifer Haylett to the Housing and Community Development Commission.
No, I thought we were talking about Elizabeth Marilla Cat. That's what
Oh, I am sorry. I was referring to Jennifer has not been on a commission.
Right.
But we can take time to step back.
Oh, so, okay. I was just under the assumption that those were the, Elizabeth and Carol were the two we were selecting, but.
Okay. So I'll I just recommended Carol and Jennifer. So if council wants to go a different direction, that's totally up to the majority.
I think it sounds to me like everybody's agreed on Carol. The question is whether it should be Elizabeth or Jennifer.
Or Jennifer, right?
Both of whom seem to be well qualified.
Would it make sense to approve the one we all agree upon and then work through the second appointment? Just as an idea.
Yeah, no, I think what we can do is maybe just look at, Jennifer and Elizabeth. I mean, those are our two options. And so if I can just see a show of hands for Elizabeth. Okay. Majority has Elizabeth. So we're going to go with, and Elizabeth's last name?
Marilla Cap.
Marilla Cap.
Marilla, M-A-R-I-L-L-A.
All right.
Cap.
So we're going to appoint Carol Cross and Elizabeth Marilla Cap to the Housing and Community Development Commission. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Mayor, the terms are different. One ends 23 and one ends 24.
Yes.
Let's say Carol for the one that ends 24.
Okay.
Okay.
Agreed. 24. All right. So can I get a motion to approve Carol Cross with an ending term of June 30th, 2024, and Elizabeth for ending term of June 30th, 2024 to the Housing and Community Development
I
Commission?
think Elizabeth is 2023.
Elizabeth, 2026.
Oh, I said 2024 twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right,
One of those
2023.
meetings. All right. Yeah.
All right, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved by Weiner, seconded by Burgess. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item number 19 is announcements of vacancies new. Applicants must reside in Iowa City and be 18 years of age unless specific qualifications are stated. Civil Service Commission, one vacancy to fill an unexpired term upon appointment through April 7th, 2025. Applications must be received by 5 p.m. Tuesday, May 31st, 2022. Can I get a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved. Taylor?
Second, Burgess.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item number 20 is announcements of vacancy previous. Applicants must reside in Iowa City and be 18 years of age unless specific qualifications are stated. Airport Commission, 2 vacancies to fill a 4-year term. Historic Preservation Commission at large, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Commission Brown Street, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Commission Jefferson Street, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Commission Summit Street, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Housing and Community Development, 3 vacancies to fill 3-year terms. Planning and Library Board of Trustees, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Planning and Zoning Commission, 1 vacancy to fill a 5-year term. Applications must be received by 5 p.m. Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. Airport Zoning Board of Adjustment, 1 vacancy to fill a 5-year term. Airport Zoning Commission, Iowa City Representative, 1 vacancy to fill a 6-year term. Board of Appeals Building Design Professional, 1 vacancy to fill a 5-year term. Historic Preservation Commission, East College Street, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Commission, Jefferson Street, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Public Art Advisory Committee, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Public Art Advisory Committee, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Vacancies will remain open until filled. And we are at item number 21, but USG actually spoke during our work session. So we will continue on to item number 22, which is City Council information.
If I may, one last reminder, next week is going to be the screening of A Decent Home, a documentary on the mobile home housing crisis in the United States, with a focus right here in Iowa, in North Liberty. There'll be 2 screenings at Film Scene next week, both at 7 p.m. The first on Wednesday night, the second on Thursday night, and the Wednesday night showing will be subtitled in Spanish for the entire screening. And I understand tickets have been on sale and are going quickly. So if you're looking to go, probably good to go online and get your tickets ahead of time. And just something that I think is particularly relevant considering our action earlier tonight, helping out another group from a mobile home court in Iowa City as we grapple with affordable housing as a community.
I did see that that's moving across the state a little bit. It'll be in Dubuque as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be in a film festival in Dubuque, Julian Dubuque Film Festival this coming weekend. There's going to be a showing at Drake University, I think the night before it comes to Iowa City, or it's the night after, I forget now which.
Before.
Yes, but it is showing in a couple of different places around the state in this coming week, so. That's all I had.
Great. Any more updates?
Couple things that I mentioned previously, but the CPRB, the Community Police Review Board Public Forum, is tomorrow evening, starting at 6 p.m. on Zoom, so you can register online at icgov.org. And I think the topic is learning about the commission, who they are, and how to get in touch with them. Commissioner Harmson mentioned the energy blitz that's happening in Lucas Farms neighborhood on Saturday, if they may still be seeking volunteers. Also information available on the city website. On Sunday is the South District Neighborhood Association's Team Up to Clean Up. You can sign up online on the South District neighborhood.org, I believe is what the website is. Or just show up with your pair of gloves and we'll hand you a trash bag on
What
Sunday.
time?
9? Okay, starting at 9, meeting at the mural, and deploying from there throughout the neighborhood. It's also a great opportunity just to walk the neighborhood and pick up trash. You don't have to, even check in with anyone. That's always something folks can do. And then the electric bus bash that was set for Friday afternoon has been moved to May 6th, I believe, at Riverfront Crossings Park, unless it's raining, and then it'll be in the Chauncey Swan parking ramp. So make sure folks who had that on their calendar, I want to see the giant disco ball with the electric bus as shown in the graphic.
I think that's
May
at
6th.
2 p.m. on May 6th.
2 p.m. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I had.
We hit all the highlights.
Great. You stole her thunder. No. All right. Anything else?
I've got one that actually we were all alerted to, that the environmental student groups from City, Liberty, and West High, they are going to do an Earth Day celebration, and it was going to be outside at Chauncey Swan, but if it is going to rain, they're going to move inside to Robert A. Lee. And last I knew, that's still on, right? And that's from 11 to 2 on Friday. So I'm going to take my child who is off of school, and we're going to go check it out. So, it looks like it should be really cool. Live music, free activities, and food for sale. So this seems like, and I love the fact that this is all the high schools getting together and it's the students. That's amazing. So.
Great. All right. We'll move on to our city staff reports.
Nothing tonight.
Okay, city manager, our deputy city manager.
Nothing tonight.
City attorney,
Nothing for me, thank you.
our city clerk. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Moved by Taylor, seconded by Weiner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We adjourned. Great.